Big news out of college basketball and a big get for Memphis. Five-star prospect Emoni Bates heading to play for Penny Hardaway and the Tigers. He joins fellow five-star prospect Jalen Duren, and Emoni Bates reclassified to the 2021 class, number 5 overall player according to 24/7 Sports. He chooses Memphis over Oregon, Michigan State, and the G League. 17 years old, 6'8", eligible for the NBA draft in 2023, so he'll have to play a couple years before he can head to the NBA. And you heard me mention the class here. It's incredible as Emoni Bates joins Jalen Duren, and the Tigers are now number 1 in terms of recruiting in the country in 2021. Penny Hardaway bringing in top recruits, also bringing in a great coaching staff. He's going to have Rasheed Wallace on his coaching staff and the Hall of Famer Larry Brown on his coaching staff. And they're coaching these guys that essentially are ready, will be ready in a few years to get to the NBA. So certainly Memphis brewing something special there with Penny Hardaway and now landing Emoni Bates, a 5-star prospect out of Ypsilanti, Michigan. Welcome in CBS Sports college basketball insider Gary Parrish, who knows this program very well. A big get for Memphis, Gary, as Penny Hardaway lands Emoni Bates. Your reaction?
It's massive for the program, for the city, a city that cares so deeply about that basketball program. You know, to land somebody who has been called a generational talent, at one point got compared to Kevin Durant, to land him so deep into this recruiting calendar is undeniably significant. And when you pair him with Jalen Duren, another consensus top 5 prospect in the class of 2021, as you noted, the Tigers now have the number 1 ranked recruiting class in America for the second time in a 3-year span. And when I update the CBS Sports top 25 and 1 later on tonight, Memphis will be safely inside the top 10, which means the Tigers should be the favorite in the American Athletic Conference and a real contender to not only make a Final Four, but also win a national championship.
You mentioned Emoni Bates in terms of his ability being compared to Kevin Durant. How would you describe him as a player?
Well, I think anytime you start comparing a teenager to one of the greatest basketball players in the history of the planet, you're setting the bar a little too high. You know, if you're, expecting Emoni Bates to be Kevin Durant and determined to be disappointed if he's not, then you are really setting a young person up to be disappointing, because Kevin Durant is arguably the greatest scorer in the history of basketball and undeniably one of the greatest players in the history of the sport. But I will tell you, all that said, when Emoni Bates gets going and he is operating at a high level, it looks an awful lot like Kevin Durant. The comparisons aren't ridiculous. Again, it doesn't mean that Emoni Bates will be Kevin Durant or as good as Kevin Durant or anything close. But when he gets going on the offensive end of the court, and he is, as a 6'8", 6'9" wing, shot creating and sinking jumpers from all over the court, at this level, it looks a lot like what we have been watching Kevin Durant do for a long, long time. So again, I think predicting anybody will ever be that is probably a loser's game. But this is an undeniably super talented young person who is going to be impactful in college basketball and then probably be among the first players selected in the 2023 NBA draft.
Yeah, explain that, Gary, for those that are unfamiliar, the reason why he has to wait until 2023 to be eligible for the NBA draft.
He was born about a month too late. That's what's so unique about this situation, is that based on the current CBA, he, unlike Jalen Duren, will not be eligible for the 2022 NBA draft. So both of these young men, these top 5 prospects who are coming to Memphis, they were originally in the class of 2022. They have both reclassified. Jalen Duren is old enough that he will be eligible for the 2022 NBA draft, but Emoni Bates is not. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean he will spend 2 years at the University of Memphis. His father, Elgin Bates, has made it clear that whatever they decided this time around would just be a 1-year commitment. Then they would look up at the end of the year and figure out if they wanted to do something different. So if you're Oregon or Michigan State, you've missed out on Jalen Duren the first time around. Same goes for the G League. But it doesn't mean that you couldn't get him, a year from now, because the NCAA has changed the transfer rules to allow anybody to transfer after 1 year or 2 years or 3 years and play immediately as long as it's the first time they've ever done so. So what we know for sure right now is that barring some sort of weird surprise, Emoni Bates is going to play this upcoming season at Memphis. And after that, he could do any number of things. Go to the G League, transfer to another college, just sit out a year and train. But if you're Penny Hardaway, Larry Brown, Rasheed Wallace, Cody Topper, that Memphis staff, that's not something you worry about right now. You are thrilled that you've added such a uniquely talented young person. And obviously, if things go well, individually for Emoni and as a team for Memphis, then there would be no reason for him to leave Memphis after one season. So you really could be, if you're the Tigers, getting a generational talent for multiple seasons. And given that name, image, and likeness rights are now a reality, this is also true. Emoni Bates is not going to have to leave college to get paid. He'll be a millionaire, I presume, while he's playing college basketball at the University of Memphis, because he comes to college with a big, big brand, and he will begin to capitalize on it immediately.
Would you argue that for Emoni Bates, yes, you play one season, but wouldn't it be smart to play that second season? We saw like Jalen Green, right? He went and played in the G League, and he said had he played college basketball, there might have been a different conversation to go number one instead of Cade Cunningham. If we look at history, at least in this current situation, wouldn't it be smart for Emoni Bates to play 2 seasons, or let's say a season and a half, so that at least his name is out there and the recognition factor is out there, so that when it becomes NBA draft night, he could go number one if he is in fact that good?
It's pretty clear at this point that if you are super talented, the way Emoni Bates is, that there are multiple paths to the NBA. Anybody suggesting otherwise isn't telling the truth. You can go play in Australia and then bounce to the NBA and be a top 5 pick. You can go to the G League and then bounce to the NBA draft and be a top 5 pick. We've seen examples of both of those things, first with LaMelo Ball and more recently with Jalen Green. And you can also obviously go to college and be the number 1 pick. That's what Cade Cunningham just did. So I'm not going to sit here and pretend that there's an awful path for Emoni Bates. Barring a big surprise or some sort of injury, he is going to be among the first players selected in the 2023 NBA draft, and he'll earn more money playing basketball throughout his career than he should know what to do with. But to your point, there's no denying that the stage that college basketball provides is drastically bigger than any stage that the G League or any other professional league in the country can provide. If you go to college for a high-profile program like the University of Memphis, you're going to be on national television twice a week for 4 months. You're probably, almost certainly going to play in the NCAA tournament. You're going to have a chance to be an All-American, a National Player of the Year, a household name within the sport. Most people, unless you were like really into basketball, just missed Jonathan Kuminga and Jalen Green for an entire year. People don't turn in to those G League games, but they do tune into college basketball. And so I hear you. If you want to make sure you have got the biggest brand you can possibly have by the time you enter the NBA draft, so you can capitalize on that in all the ways that are available, then yes, playing 2 years of college basketball gives you the best chance to do that. And whereas Jalen Green, Jonathan Kuminga, Daishen Nix had to choose between the money the G League could provide or a scholarship and cost of attendance stipend, and legally nothing else more, Jalen Duren didn't have to make that decision. Emoni Bates didn't have to make that decision. These incoming freshmen, they're not picking between getting paid to play basketball or not getting paid to play basketball. Jalen Duren at Memphis is going to make, I would assume, in excess of $1 million because of name, image, and likeness rights. And Emoni Bates, I would assume, is going to do the same thing. So whereas somebody might say, if you're Emoni Bates, do 1 year in college and then go make some real money in the G League and then go to the NBA draft, you can probably make more money at the University of Memphis than you'll be able to make in the G League. And it's among the reasons that if you were betting right now, as long as things go well at Memphis, you would bet that he will spend 2 years at the University of Memphis, which is obviously an incredible development if it unfolds that way for Penny Hardaway and his staff.
Yeah, you know this very well. The 5-star recruits under Penny Hardaway. I just want to run them down here. Emoni Bates now, Jalen Duren, Musa Cisse in 2020, James Wiseman in 2019, and Precious Achiuwa also in 2019. This is incredible what Penny Hardaway has been able to build. And as I mentioned, he's adding Rasheed Wallace and the Hall of Famer Larry Brown to his coaching staff. What does this mean for Penny and the Memphis program, now adding a guy like Emoni Bates?
Well, it means that it's time to break through. Like, I think when Penny got hired, all of us knew that he would be able to recruit at a high level, at least initially, because he had established relationships with 5-star and 4-star prospects like James Wiseman and DJ Jeffries and other guys that he was able to enroll, Alex Lomax, Tyler Harris. Where people had questions was, what could he do with the talent when he got the talent? And those questions are still there for some. I think they're mostly unwarranted at this point, because Penny Hardaway did coach a team last season that finished 31st at KenPom, that won the NIT. And I know when people hear me say that, they will say, yeah, congratulations on winning the NIT. All that means is that you weren't good enough to go to the NCAA tournament. But that's not technically true. What it means is that Memphis didn't have an NCAA tournament resume. But ask Kelvin Sampson, who played Memphis twice late in the season, if Memphis was good enough to be in the NCAA tournament, win games in the NCAA tournament. Kelvin, in fact, this offseason was quoted as saying more or less, we won 4 games to get to the Final Four at Houston, and none of those games were as difficult as the 2 games we played against Memphis. So it is true, Memphis didn't have an NCAA tournament resume. They did not deserve to make the NCAA tournament. You have to show your work on paper. But they were good enough to go to the NCAA tournament, and the job Penny did last year coaching that team, I thought was really, really impressive. But here's the truth. Until he takes this type of talented roster, not only to the NCAA tournament, but deep into the NCAA tournament, whatever skeptics are out there, they'll continue to chirp. It's now Penny's job to quiet them, and he's got a roster that is built to do it, because it's important to understand this isn't just the #1 recruiting class in 2021 like he got the #1 recruiting class in 2019. In 2019, he had nothing else. It was just all young guys. And then James Wiseman got ineligible, DJ Jeffries got hurt, and it just spiraled in a way that nobody could have predicted in the preseason. This is very different. I've mentioned that Memphis team last season finished 31st at KenPom. Well, the top 3 players in minutes average per game, DeAndre Williams, Landers Nolley, Lester Quinones, they're all back. So what you're doing is taking some incredibly talented freshmen and pairing them with guys who are older and who have already been a part of a winning basketball team, of a winning culture. That is how you win at a high level in college basketball. Think 2012 Kentucky, yes, they were led by freshmen, but 3 of the top 6 scorers were not freshmen. Think 2015 Duke, national championship, yeah, they were led by freshmen, but 3 of the top 6 scorers were not freshmen. It's going to be the same deal at Memphis this year. They're going to be led by freshmen. Emoni Bates is terrific. Jalen Duren as well. But Landers Nolley, DeAndre Williams, Lester Quinones still be in the program. That's the type of roster balance mixed with elite talent that can really take you to a special place.
Looking forward to watching them this upcoming season. The big news on Wednesday, Emoni Bates committing to Memphis. CBS Sports college basketball insider Gary Parrish breaking down for us here on CBS Sports HQ. Gary, thanks.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.